how that matchup is going to go with Qadsiah and the Ultimates coming up right after this break.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Okay, go fast,
Come left. And you touch. 3, 2, 1. Get in low,
Get low. 3, 2, 1. Get it. Assist.
Back aja. Prepare card.
Low. I'm killing brick.
Welcome back, everybody, to OWCS EMEA. We had quite the appetizer to this last matchup here with Virtus Pro, taking it 3-2 up against Quick Esports. But again, I'm Ash, joined here by Matt and Mitch for this heater of a last match for EMEA today. Qadsiah versus the Ultimates. Both of these teams, Matt, managed to find victories on their first day of games yesterday.
In much different fashions, though. Right, Qadsiah's felt like they could lose at any moment, where the Ultimates, they just kind of like bulldoze their way through Gen G. So both teams find themselves at 1-0, right? Hey, a win's a win, right? We count the maps in terms of score, but still, win's a win. But I think the Ultimates, they definitely are in the driving seat coming into this match. Qadsiah, no, I don't think they have like much to prove. Like, we know how good this team is within EMEA, and obviously, taking a map off of Falcons at Champions Clash, not to be downplayed, but I would say coming into this one, even looking at the Qadsiah roster and how strong they've been with like Labda and Checkmate, I think kind of leading the way in terms of DPS, that the Ultimates feel like they've kind of hit their stride here.
I honestly couldn't agree more. I think like a tough game. A tough game for Qadsiah, because no one else cares, mate. You're the only one that cares. But Labda and Checkmate got kind of pushed to the limit against Quartz and Newbie, right? We got the Lambda versus Quartz like hit scan matchup over much of the course of the series, or at least, you know, the longer range sort of DPS played. Lambda, the kind of guy who still wants to play more of that Sojourn. And honestly, it feels like Qadsiah got out, you know, pretty luckily at the end of that series. It was a dogfight.
Yeah, it definitely was a dogfight. We were also even just like talking about Kellex with that interview with Landon and how well he slotted in for Qadsiah. And so much of the conversation yesterday came down to that backline here as well for the Ultimates. Twilight finding that MVP yesterday looked so good. And then also keeping our eyes on Heesung, a player that was bringing out the Winston in such a strong fashion for the Ultimates yesterday, Mitch.
Yeah, look, I think that, you know, we heard Chris talk about it in the interview. He said, we are trying to give ourselves the ability to do something that no one else in this region can do. And straight out of the gates, like, we get this like Pharah Winston look. Mag tries to sort of match it there on the Winston at times. Heesung showing that like the ball maybe left a little bit to be desired on that second round of Ilios, but outside of that, the dive style's really clean. Kest is someone who fits into that so well. He's probably been, you know, waiting for an opportunity to really get to play in this way again, because Kevster in the past played alongside Chase, which was great, but they could only ever get the guy online. When it came to lands, couldn't do it. So got to see the best, I think, of what the Ultimates are hoping to show us, you know, coming into this season. And they're going up against a team who might not really have that Winston option to bring against them.
It'll be interesting to see how that head-to-head goes there with the tanks, but I'm really looking forward to this matchup. It's anticipated to be a close affair, maybe slightly favoring the Ultimates here, but like Shockwave said, we're hoping for a dogfight at the end of the day. I can't wait to see what you guys are going to be casting over.
Yeah, me neither. Thank you very much, Ash. We're going to jump in for you guys in just a moment. Now, last time, Ilios was the first map in the series, I think. Yep, Oasis is going to be coming up first here. So some maps, of course, are still very reasonable to play the Winston. Maybe the only one that is a little uncertain is University, but still, we want to see more out of this Ultimates team. Let's see exactly what it is that no other team can do.
I really like, though, as we go into the bans, which Shockwave talked about today, and then also a little bit of like kind of Christopher's interview yesterday, where I think these teams know that they can win now playing, you know, a certain style, but it's really kind of like about future-proofing yourself and building towards that future, right? Where, hey, you want to go to the mid-season event, right, and win the most money possible, right? You want to go to finals and, you know, make a ton of money. It's, you don't exactly want to go and just get kind of like first rounded, right? So you have to kind of build towards that future you expect.
And in that sense, it means that matches like this, while important, you know, for making sure you can be in playoffs, aren't the be-all and end-all. You know, like the Ultimates can afford to drop maps and even series in order to make sure that they have, you know, the broadest range of possibilities when they get into, you know, a LAN, especially if there's like a big metagame change before them, which does tend to happen. Like we've seen so many lanes in the past, like just defined by certain heroes being very powerful and certain metagames just sort of going in that direction. So, like, we had like a LAN last year, it was all brawl. The next LAN was all dive. And so we saw like, you know, the teams more successful or more comfortable in those sort of kind of comps do way better. Like Dallas last year, NA got rolled and EU did way better. Whereas in Hangzhou, like EU were barely there. So that's also something you really need to build in your team.
EU played in like a corner by themselves, and then like they just beat up each other in Hangzhou.
Yeah, they're the kids' table.
Yeah, it's true. Where so the Ultimates get rid of Diva here, Brig gone from Qadsiah. So I think the Ultimates, you still go down this road, right? Of I know playing Heesung on the Winston, right? Playing a little bit more dive-centric thing. We saw some ball yesterday as well. So I think that's kind of what they're building towards. The communication, I think, will come within time. I know, obviously, I know as Christopher mentioned in the interview, right? Heesung maybe doesn't have the best English or, you know, any at the time, but, you know, there's Overwatch language, right? Monkey, 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 you know, we've heard that before, right? You know, teams being able to kind of coordinate those call outs by just kind of coming up with names for the characters. So I think they're easily going to be able to navigate it.
Now, we feel yesterday, Krusty, who obviously was coaching Genji, allowed the Ultimates to kind of play their style, maybe not having the strongest ban strategy. Now, Qadsiah have Junkbuck, who is the master of that sensei we just referred to. So he's the kind of guy that always has a strategy. It's the Malga look here for our Qadsiah, though. Maybe not a huge surprise. The Ultimates, of course, they have Ana here. So a unique scenario in Europe where there's a biotic grenade to really make things a little tricky. So the Suzu is ultra important for Landon.
we have seen, though, how difficult these compositions, though, with the Winston are to play into a Mauga-based setup, right? And no break to protect that Ana, right? Because it is banned out there by Qadsiah, but the Ultimates, they get a first pick, and they will end up getting control of the point.
Despite, obviously, he's under a lot of pressure and Twilight falling. The Ultimate's able to negotiate from a position of power here, and Ziad's that's ugly. You can't afford to have that happen. And that's not even a Bionade from Twilight, Matt. That's just him getting flattened.
Yeah, I mean, you see some extra damage there from Kai on the Freya that he puts in his Yard, and then he just jumps right on down, but there had to be some other damage involved there because he just disintegrated there on the Mauga. So the Ultimate's getting off to a very good start here. And I would say as well, Freya's probably a little bit harder for like the Mauga compositions to like track down, right? Like the Sojourn, once she has Slide, it was easy to get like a stomp or follow her around. The Freya just has so much like upward mobility.
Okay, here's Kitsune Rush. They find Twilight and try and jump on him. I like that a lot. Landon able to get that ultimate out, and the Ultimate's just completely rolled over in that fight. There was a bowler shot there deployed by Kai, but way too little opportunity. I was really hoping to see Ultimates like throw a Bionade match to force out the Suzu and then bowl a shot to win the fight, but I like that fast-paced play from Qadsiah.
Yeah, I'm not even sure the bio from Twilight like actually connected with anything. He threw it around the corner. And then they kind of just ran around, and he gets that sleep, but there's just so much damage. There's no way he's going to be able to kind of live through that. The entire team running around the corner as he gets right into the mix. That's going to be a Kitsune Rush here from Sky. As you see Qadsiah, they're just trying to hightail it out of there. Nice pulse bomb from Kevster, going to take out Ziad, so that's going to give them a big advantage.
But we're seeing why the brick ban is so important in this game, Matt. Twilight does not have anyone to protect him really at all. Sky is kind of elsewhere a lot of the time, trying to keep Hisung topped up. So the brick would have made such a big difference to those fast tempo-based rushes. That's just not at the disposal of the Ultimates, but still able to succeed in that previous fight. Now Nano for Hisung or anybody is online.
Right. And with Sky and Twilight, you don't exactly want to play Lucio, right? You would have played Brig potentially here from Sky to kind of protect that Ana. And also, the rally pretty effective, into a Kitsune Rush on the other side. This will be this is going to be actually a overclock here with the checkmate barrier. This will be actually the Nano there that goes on to Hisung, but look at this. Sky gets chased down. You lose Sky. You're also going to lose Twilight. So they're doing a great job without the brick in play, taking advantage of these supports.
Yeah, Ultimates are so split at times, right? Kyle wants to take his own off angles quite often, and Twilight does get left alone at times. So Qadsiah are able to flip things back. I will say that Kai is doing a lot more damage than Lambda is right now. The Sojourn has not been able to really find anything to shoot at, whereas Kai has been sitting up in the middle of that sort of pergola and just throwing damage down pretty comfortably. So something to track. We know Lambda is one of the few sort of players that's not quite adopted this Freya fully yet.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even consider, dude, look at this. The support's just explode there. I mean, Lambda takes out Sky. Sky's trying to make like a play over towards that staircase, and then once they get rid of Sky, they know that Twilight's around the corner completely alone. The Kitsune Rush does get invested there, right? But now, I mean, Zeon's going to end up with this cage fight, right? Imagine you kind of catch Twilight, right? You're able to deal with him rather easily. The brig ban there from Jungkook and Qadsiah, very good early on.
Yeah, I like it. It feels like it's really set the tone for this map. All right, cage fight's really going to be a thing. Kai won't have the DPS to break through it here. Maybe an early bowler shot could be nice. Get a pick. Negate the ult advance. Well, yeah, that happens, Kai. It's all right. We did see it, but, we won't pretend we didn't see it either, but, it does happen. Still, cage fight down. That's been dealt with. Hisung now on the dive in. Took the sort of minor perk to make the landing a little bit harder when he drops in, and Checkmate is now out of the fight. Zia's got no real option here but to step up now, staggered out. So yes, he can stall for a time, run through, but he got chased down. Qadsiah have really got no way to get back into the round at this point.
Yeah, it's dire here for Qadsiah. Sky comes right around the corner. Domes, Kellex, who would have potentially been the saving grace there for Qadsiah, potentially ends up building a sound barrier, but does not make it back as the Ultimates in a back and forth first round end up taking it.
It is kind of wild. Landon has like more healing than Sky and Twilight combined, right? By a long shot. It's like an extra 2k on top of them. So, we can see how important it is to keep that constant sort of throughput going in the direction of the Mauga, combine that, of course, with the cardiac overdrive. But just the damage there, just that individual kill potential is not there. I mean, Kai has doubled Labda's damage output.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I think that that's like why you see even teams who play Maga end up playing the Freya. And look, Labda is not a hit scan player by, you know, kind of like historical senses, right? Like this is a player who played a lot of Pharah, really kind of surprises and impressed us, quite frankly, with his ability to play the Sojourn last year. But I wouldn't exactly say, you know, you see him flex over to Cassidy or something like that, and you know it's going to be the same. So seems like maybe just Freya not in his hero pool just yet. Pretty sure he's going to be able to figure it out though. Sick player. So it'll be Orisa here for the ultimate. So they'll run the Orisa with a Pharah in the mix. So a lot of poke damage here coming down.
And now Qadsiah have given up the high ground to contest the point properly, so they've got to be very aware that Keps is going to move in and take up that position. They just get put in the meat grinder as they move over towards that left side room. Backline down though for the ultimates, and you've seen though they haven't really needed healing to satisfy the kill condition, but now with the reset in the game, they are going to have to give a little bit more over in terms of that throughput.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult as well because you're going to try and make a play for the backline yet again of the ultimates, but then Heesing's going to be there being able to actually use like the fortify, being able to spear spin, knock players off course, and then the bio grenades are going to come through. It's going to be very difficult to deal with it. Orisa also puts out a pretty sizable amount of damage, so this fight looking very similar to how the last one kicked off.
Kempster has to gain some altitude here, but it's, oh, nice Suzu switch step combo coming out there. Leonard had the same idea, but Twilight has a Bionade to deal with him. And so the ultimates are able to leave Heesung in the front line on his own for extended periods of time and not worry about it.
So Ziad's got to go and play Hazard here. So Hazard into the Orisa. I think this is probably, if you're Qadsiah, this is not how you expect this one to go, right? You expect it with that Brig Band to consistently be able to play that Maga, but some nice comms here out of the ultimates have definitely made it difficult as Ziad trying to work his way through that side room. You see already got hit with a spear, so gets knocked off course.
Hazard, okay. Oh, buddy, that is beautiful there from Checkmate. Kersteling is a little bit too low. Caught in the gust, and the pulse bomb accounts for both of them.
That one again. That was sick there from Checkmate as Qadsiah has been able to get nothing going here on this second checkpoint, and a pulse bomb over the top that connects with two. I mean, that is a hero play type of stuff there from Checkmate.
I've always thought that pulse bomb should stick people together if it hits them both. Or has a
Excuse me?
Yeah. That'd be cool. Wasn't needed there, of course, as Kempster. I guess he just had to drop down at the time. Nice from Checkmate. Here comes a barrage, though, on the move with Nano. That's pretty devastating. And Lambda is definitely dead in that situation. No way you walk away from those. So the ultimate's back in control. It's just a Nano barrage used to that effect so they can hold the rush for, really using Heesung as the tip of the spear in the next fight.
God, this Ultimates team just looks so much more coordinated than they did in Stage 1. It looks like they're just playing a lot more confidence, right? I mean, think about some of the conversations about this team with like Stage 1, right? It was like, oh, like, Kai, Kempster, like, where are they at now in terms of players? It's like they are clearly still as good as ever. As this time, though, Kitsune Rush comes in from Sky. It is a overclock, though, from Labda that ends up resulting in a few kills. So Qadsiah not going away just yet.
And you notice that Kempster's taking the perk that Concussive Blast now draws people inward. So
Yeah,
good combo with the Freya ultimate, but Kai just kind of yeeted his there across the point and missed.
It's also really good when you actually get the Nano with the barrage, right? And you just kind of like suck people into it, and there's no, I mean, they just can't.
Or with the Terror Surge as well is
so
actually
fast.
disgusting with that.
Yeah.
Terror Surge, and then you throw it in, so there's like everyone actually can't get out of it. All right,
God's in a lot of trouble. Oh, nice sound barrier.
Great beat. He's not too bothered. Has his cooldowns, and of course has that extra forward. Okay, that one's a bit curious. Nobody really being able to be caught in that one. Another great stick, though. Twilight's been struggling to deal with Checkmate's pressure.
Yeah, Checkmate is like, I do not want to lose. The Ultimates looked like they were in. It feels like the tide of this one changed when that double pulse bomb came through, right? It feels like ever since that point, Qadsiah has been in control. As we're going to go back to Winston here for the Ultimates, most likely even just try and get a touch here as Ziad using the walls here. The Hazard just trying to cut players off. Kai will get a touch trigger OT. Don't think it's going to last long, though.
Here's Suzu, and Downpour dodged by Heesung, but he's low anyway. Tough to take on the Hazard as Winston. Always a tricky proposition. Nano here for Twilight, of course, as he tried to give it to someone else. Not really anything to do with it, though, now, as Qadsiah will be able to take this round away. And yeah, definitely feel like Checkmate was the headliner in this one. 20 eliminations for the map so far, and some incredible pulse kills.
Dude, the double pulse bomb, I mean, could be like a map-winning play there from Checkmate, right? As we now go to the final stage here on Oasis. Do you think Qadsiah continues to run this hazard? They look quite effective when they were playing it.
Honestly, like, this map is a little weird because Hazard can't easily mantle up on the sort of the platform. I won't use the colloquial name for it. The platform in the middle of the point here, because you climb up the pillar and then like you got to be a bit more artful about how you do it.
What's the actual name for it?
It's the platform. It's like a little causeway. I'm not using the colloquial name for it. So I don't. It's a bit weird trying to go up down sometimes. So yeah, okay, we're gonna stay with the Winston here. So yeah, back to the old faithful, Matt.
Yes, we talk about how good they look on the hazard, and why not just play Mauga again? As Mauga can be very difficult to push into here, especially like you see Qadsiah doesn't exactly kind of like fighting for the high ground at the moment. I think what Qadsiah would like to do is have the ultimates kind of dive into where we saw Landon playing from there, or have to drop down to the low ground to kind of contest the point, right, and fight Ziad head on.
I mean, look at this, just getting pulled apart around Qadsiah. All right, Twilight. Nice little flare from him. Getting on the kill feed. Still won't get a player of the game though, by the way, because you know the game hates Arnhem players, but still like that.
Oh yeah. I thought you meant player of the match. I was like, oh, we have definitely given Twilight his player of the matches, but
I remember like play the game is really hard to get as Arno in general. This might get you there.
I mean,
honestly,
dude, that is oh, I mean, he is just sick. I mean, we talked about it yesterday, right? Like one of the legendary Ana players of all time.
Yeah.
Still also competing at a high level, right? Where, you know, some of them either took them a while to get going, right? In terms of like their competitive careers, like, and he's what, Overwatch League Season 2, and he's still, playing at this level.
Yeah, genuinely the kind of player that can take the game over if allowed to. And I think we saw that against Gen G, in pretty stunning fashion. However, this fight, Twilight was honestly threatening to take Checkmate down in the 1 versus 1, but Ziad intercedes on behalf of his Tracer and make sure that the Ana is dealt with. The ultimate's here though. It's a reasonable start for them. They kind of pull Qadsiah apart with their raw mobility in that first engagement. Like, I can imagine they're looking to run that back here.
Yeah. The bio's already been used here by Twilight. I wonder, they actually deal with Kepster. I was like, with the bio already gone, I wonder if Ziad's just like, screw it, we're going around the corner, right? Like, as, while he's charging, like, immune to everything, right? Not going to be able to be stunned or slept out of that. So, able to just kind of move on through it, and that time they get Kepster as soon as the nano bio grenade comes down, and then Ziad, you're able to get him and go around the corner with the Kitsune rush, so you get another fight win here for Qadsiah.
Kepler's just on the wrong side of those archers, I think, while the rest of the ultimates have been held at bay. Like Ziad made great space, caused good separation. Twilight there, of course, mutual nano, so able to stave off the splash damage that the pulse bomb would have done. Would have been probably enough to deal with him. Kalak's low, but gets away. Landon not nearly as lucky. Kepster now more willing to get his hands dirty as the ultimate see a prime opportunity to flip the point back.
I mean, that's the beat use as well, right? And so Kellex ends up using the beat to try and counter that nano barrage coming through. It's just so much damage, and especially now that the follower can move during it, right? It becomes very difficult. So you see Twilight actually lurking there. He wants to get like a bio grenade from like a side.
He's so good.
I mean, come on, dude. Like, that is tilting.
Oh, and the bio on the, oh god. Thankfully, Landon is able to find a Suzu there, but here's Kai just dealing the deeps from the high ground. Sky did well though. Cage fight definitely give Qadsiah a big edge in that fight.
Yeah.
Twilight, go kill. Okay, never mind. Next fight.
Oh, but still, I mean, dude, Twilight, I mean, gets the sleep on the Checkmate. It's a TP from Sky. They finish him off, then gets a bio onto Ziad while he's inside of, like, the cage, right as the cage comes down.
Just before it, yeah.
And you still don't win that fight. That is brutal. I mean, now, Qadsiah, right? You get a good use of this Kitsune rush. You're able to win this first map.
I think that was only Heesung maybe inside the cage. It's just not enough damage to follow up on the bio. Otherwise, that's kind of perfect. Landon had Suzu anyway, so it's a moot point. All right, space made by Heesung, pushing that bubble forward. He might have to primal here. Yeah, no choice now. There's some environmental kill potential, but Heesung more concerned about just dying too early. He also needs to touch. He's also very low. Oh, okay. Sure, yes, okay, understood.
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
you can have a free kill. Twilight tried to keep him alive, but Checkmate did chase him down, and the backline crumbles here for the ultimates. It's just a little bit too messy for them. I like this from Qadsiah out. The Brig Ban gets them a lot of mileage coming into Oasis, and they'll take the map.
Yeah, the Brig Ban here, especially when they want to play the Winston type of setup on the other side with Twilight on the Ana. It is just insane value there for Qadsiah to get rid of the Brig. So really nice read for Qadsiah to open things up and take this first map. And when seeing what the difference the Brig Ban makes, I wonder if there's a world for Qadsiah where we see them ban Ana at some point, right?
Honestly, like, it seems that the Ultimates thought that even with the Brig Ban, they'd be able to sort of find success. By the way, Malga got play of the game, not Ana. So yeah, game hates Ana players. But looking back over some of these moments here, it's really clear to see just how good this dive comp is when you can sort of catch the death ball of Malga like in between phases, or in a position where like maybe they burnt their cooldowns or they've already committed to a fight. It's so sick. But I mean, in a straight up fight, especially when Suzu is available, and Landon is just so good at securing those, it feels so brutal.
It's kind of what we talked about historically with this comps, is that like, can Dive win against Malga? Yes. The issue is that like the Malga, team, for instance, can make like a few mistakes and still win, where the Dive team seems like it has to play absolutely perfectly to come out on top in these types of matchups. So you see here pretty comparable stats, all things considered. Yeah, I mean, that is huge. Well, that's also just like what I mean. It's like the Malga healing, right? It's also the Kiri.
You're also
right?
playing. You're playing Ana as well, right? Where Twilight is more of a hybrid, and the score lines of Ana's end up looking more like Iliari's these days. But obviously, you really want to try and bring forth that utility that she offers. The problem is that like, you have no Brig, so Ana's under more threat. You saw Twilight getting dove all the time. And then like the bio is awesome, but like I mentioned, the windows where you can actually punish the Malga when there's not a Suzu up are non-existent to slip.
Well, it also creates like really weird scenarios here potentially for, I'm curious how like Chris and Junkbuck end up handling this in terms of the ban phase, because if you're the Ultimates, right, you want to pick a map that you can play like Dive, right, and play this like Winston style. Do you ban a support to try tech to the Ana? If you do that, then that allows Junkbuck to just ban Winston. Just ban the Winston on the other side, right? And then vice versa, right? You use a ban as the Ultimates to protect the Winston, and then they ban the Ana. So it's like
this is the only team in Europe that's going to be picking Watchpoint Gibraltar with their first map pick opportunity in the series. The Ultimates, they're built a little bit different, and that's by design. But you're right. You have to protect ban either. I can't imagine you protect ban the Winston. You've already banned D.Va, so that Winston protect ban is now gone by the wayside, and Ziad will likely look to play D.Va on this map if they can.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ban the D.Va, but then if you don't ban a tank and they get rid of Winston, what do you end up seeing Heesung play, right?
Hazard? I don't know about D.Va.
Yeah, let's see.
We're going to jump into just a moment. We're going to find out. I want to know what our bans are.
I mean, yeah, you would think there has to be.
They've done it. They've only gone and done it, man.
Yeah. So they protected the Ana basically, I think, with a Lucio ban, right? And then on the opposite side, they just banned the Winston, right? So now you get the Ana, but you don't get the Winston. So it's an odd type of scenario here for the Ultimates.
And bear in mind, if Qadsiah loses this map, they just have an Ana ban that they can windmill slam as first pick. So for the first 3 maps of this series, the Ultimates are never going to get the perfect storm of heroes available to them to make their comp really good. It's really just hard. It's just going to be hard to target that. So the Ultimates are less concerned about shutting Qadsiah down and more concerned about playing their style, which is honestly, it's a position that you want to be in a lot of the time. So, and that's because the map is sort of allowed for this. It will be a Winstonless Gibraltar, which means there's like Hazard and D.Va are definitely on the table. Let's see a little bit more of what Heesung has in the hero pool.
I mean, could you even play ball here potentially, right? Like we've seen people try in the past, to play some ball here, but it would be a little odd. So it looks like he's going to end up playing the D.Va here. So D.Va, you do keep having the Ana in play, right? So you can, and maybe this is like, okay, you know what, we're just going to mirror the comp that we would have played with Winston with a D.Va in the mix, right? And you just completely avoid everything else.
Ana brings backline. Tough job for Kevster, but if anyone can do it, it's probably him. Twilight wants to stay out of LOS for the time being. Kai, though, trying to stave off Kevster, who's taking it pretty low. Okay. Yeah, checkmate's going to be a problem, I think, for Kai. Let's see how it pans out. Bring back Teast here for Qadsiah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. The back is quite interesting, right? Because you know that they're going to end up playing the Ana on the other side, right? So you don't have a cleanse here. In really, I mean, what? I guess you can actually use just the lamp down at the bottom to like protect Ziad, right? You can throw it down there, the immortality field, end up trying to help him out, and you see it come through right there.
Timely buy there for Twilight, as he knew Ziad was going to try and get the mecha down there, but Qadsiah here able to just stave them off. Twilight has to go so deep into that fight in order to get anything done. And the Sojourn threat is still sort of ever present. I do think that like this rail, when you have high ground advantage already, Lambda might be on the right hero for this map.
The ultimates also push up, right? And they get underneath that bridge and they get Ziad quite low, but then that's where the immortality field comes in, where Heesung will now end up playing the hazard. So a little bit more high ground control, right? Kind of like a wall climb up, dive into the back line here. A little bit sturdier potentially than like a Diva.
Once again, checkmate, threatening, harassing. Pulse bomb in the pocket. Okay, headed over in Heesung's direction apparently. Didn't really see the end result of that. Yeah, zoning. Love that. Nano fought the hazard here. So where's Heesung headed? Looks like, wow, everybody's trying to hit this backline on the side of Qadsiah. Landon has the immortality field that answers the pulse bomb, and there's Labda taking Kai down. Keep an eye out for that Sojourn versus Freya interaction over the course of this game. I think it could be definitive.
Dude, and that's the nano used there by the ultimates, but I don't really know if you feel terrible about it because you ended up getting the Ant Matrix in the rally out from Qadsiah. So you come back in now with your rally, right? It's just a little bit of an odd scenario, like to get value out of rally here when you're going to be playing the hazard, like how you follow it up. And look at this, some more wholesale changes across the board, right? So Sojourn in the mix now for Kai. You're going to ditch the Freya across the board, and then Keps are going to play the Genji, try and get high ground. Also another good nano target if you can build it up.
While there can seem like some anti-synergy between Bap and Diva because she's so, mobile all across the map, Landon is one of the most decorated Baptiste players we have, especially in Western Overwatch. Just incredible on that hero. And honestly, Ziad just has to double back to wherever Landon is to get the guaranteed heals that they need. And you've got an M Matrix that sets Labda up to be a true terror.
And in this fight specifically, you lose Twilight early, and the ultimates, I guess, feel that they need to actually kind of gain some type of ground or some progress here, and they end up using the rally anyway, right? So the fight's just not really kind of a junk, or maybe both things happen at the same time. So you burn the rally here as you get close to below 30 seconds, and you're gonna have, checkmate's pulse bomb. You're gonna have an Ant Matrix to use here, a lot to work with. And also, I'll take out Sky. This has been pretty bad here for the Ultimates on offense.
All right, well, a far cry from the bad strategy of the Ultimates' previous game. This one has definitely been a head scratcher for them to try and unravel. Ziad gets his make back for free. Kepster does not have a blade, so it's just a raw nano to get him going somehow. And checkmate is hiding, looking for a guaranteed pick-off. If it's the hazard, that's got to be game over there and then, but he's had to pop the recall now. Okay, takes note of where the hazard is. Sees him there a little bit low. Is there a better target, though? That's the question. Maybe Kai on the Sojourn after switching. Air Matrix now deployed, and there's Twilight. Tip the king, buddy. He just got checkmated. This is brutal now for the Ultimates. Fighting back without the lion's share of the healing and util, but they get the cart a decent way forward. Checkmate's not done. No, it's a stick on Kai. Take over the game and take a bow. It's going to be very hard for the Ultimates to recover from that. That is a flattening, folks. Kellex uses his shield like a parasol, and it works, folks. It blocks off those projectiles that come in to root him in place. And that is an ugly showing for the Ultimates.
They are just hunting Twilight at every single opportunity, right? That time, you see they even give up like a decent amount of cart progress, and they got like, Twilight's on the other side of the map, and they have 2-3 players there making sure they secure that kill and then doubling back. You can see just by getting that Ana out of the fight, like how much they feel like Twilight matters to this Ultimate squad, where getting him out early is that impactful.
Oh man, have a look at how this breaks out. Twilight obviously is much more dedicated towards healing, but the Baptiste for Landon, the pure output is crazy, and the only deaths are Kellex and Landon. So on one occasion, the Ultimates were able to get at the back line of Qadsiah, and they couldn't convert off that into an overall fight win. Like, how is Checkmate and Labda deathless in that round?
Crazy, right? Labda set up really well by Landon. Landon had an awesome round, being able to use those immortality fields, being able to keep like Ziad alive whenever they tried to dive, really, put it right on top of Labda, let him just kind of free fire inside of it. So the BAP really paid off there, I think, for Qadsiah. And I think Qadsiah just showing like how good of a team they are. I think like when you look at some of the rosters, right, they don't have the flashiest names, right? Some players we've obviously seen had great success in the past, and obviously current, but when you watch this team play, they are so sick. I mean, they are so well coached. They have great, obviously, coordination. Sky actually here on defense, though, Mitch, will bring out the Zen here for the ultimate. So I mean, dude, it was hard to keep Twilight alive. Now you're trying to put a Zen here too.
The Checkmate Diva is so, I don't know, it just feels so Saudi team coded. It's crazy. I guess that's how they're trying to cross the divide here towards this backline that features Sky and Twilight, but that is not an easy feat.
Ziad gets to the high ground and ends up taking out one here. Checkmate with a turret though, finds Sky somewhere.
Okay. Now, it's unclear if that's really going to make a huge difference, but Sky and Kai just respawned. Just coming back off respawn now, so you can at least in theory as Qadsiah make a move for the high ground. Ziad being slightly staggered out makes this a little more challenging. See, Lennon is definitely taking risks in order to get a foothold there, but they opt instead just to play low ground again. So this does in theory set Sky up to have like a favorable position. You can see him right at the top of the tunnel at the left side.
And even here, Mitch, with the a bio in play, right? The immortality field is just good enough to protect people through it, right? It's not exactly a cleanse, right? But would prevent people from falling. Maybe just kind of keep them alive long enough that you're able to hold them up. TP here. I was wondering if they try and like fake it, but there is no faking here. Oh!
All roads lead to Twilight, apparently. Is that enough, though? You've got the Zen now. The healing's not great, but you've got great offensive potential from the high ground. I think that, another TP across will get you there. Sky gets run over. Kai's able to fight back, though. Disrupt the shot thrown down at the exit point of that turret. Why am I being reminded of, like, vintage London Spitfire trying this with a Rheincom?
Yeah, because it's very similar to what they tried to do. The Lab is over there getting kills. I mean, this is, Shockwave was hoping for a dogfight when we interviewed him. He is getting his money's worth here with this one. This is just...
I love that the Gibraltar sim is being played against the guy who invented it on that Spitfire team. Oh, man.
So this would be a sick opportunity, though, for Qadsiah, right? You get control of this high ground already without having to use TP. You can use an Ant Matrix here for Labda, right? You can maybe fake the TP across, which it looks like they do here at the moment. Get Labda set up here with like an overclock and an Ant Matrix. The Ant Matrix comes down. Not really great, like, sightlines. And the immortality field too late there to keep Ziad up.
Awkward now for tempo. Ziad is not likely to get his mech back at all here. All right, again, a little telegraph of this TP play. Checkmate has a wall. I can see why he'd be tempted to stay on this pick, but it's pretty easy to see Qadsiah coming. He's sung with a self-destruct now, so easily going to be able to get his mech back, and it'll be good to go.
Well, it would be good if Qadsiah had some variation to it, right? They throw down the TP, and they all go through it all the time. Some teams, right, you'll throw the TP, make them think like, oh, we're gonna use it, we're not, like, maybe you send one player through and then send him back right away, right? It just seems like, here's the TP and we're going.
Okay, burst damage beats Transcendence. Twilight is out of the game here. Lapta now looking to play around this wall as much as humanly. Oh, it doesn't know Kai's behind him, I guess. That's so rough. Okay. Still though, Car, 30 seconds left in the game. Nice protect there on Kellex, but it might not be enough to keep the Brig in the game. Yeah, Zia desperately trying to get there, but Qadsiah just weaves his way in past the Diva and deals with him. This might be the weirdest way that the Ultimates could have won their map pick, but you know what? I'm here for it. It's flavorful at least. Ziad back in the mech. Landon Kellex just back off respawn, so they really won't be here with enough time to be relevant. You can see Checkmate is still playing the sim, still shooting those little orbs, trying to keep him standing. Big play for Labden to the backline. Sky taken down, but it's ultimately just a one-for-one trade. Overtime kept going. Looks like Kellex shield bashed onto the car, but is going to quickly be forced off of it. And the Diva remech here will be followed by a D-suit soon after as Ziad Well, he's at the end of the line.
What a bizarre map that the Ultimates, they get a fuller hold here on defense.
It's just the Ultimates
and they are able to win it. The Brig, not the Brig, the BAP wasn't exactly like impactful on offense, I felt. There are a few times where we were on board with Landon, like a little bit late on the Immortality fields. The M Matrix that we saw didn't really kind of produce a lot of sight lines. And there at the end, when we saw Labda, get that kill and start things off, I think, and then he gets killed by Kai. He was so worried about Sky on the Zen, like coming out of server room over to the bridge, that he had his back turned and then just got killed by the Soj.
I feel like Landon's like, yo, Sparker, play Bastion. Hardy, get on the Rhine. Let's run this back.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't quite the same look, of course, but we mentioned like it's a little tricky for Baptiste to keep that diva topped up out of it line of sight. Definitely feel like maybe like the Ana is a more natural fit, but that Immortality field definitely proved useful against a couple of these pulse bombs that came in. Kepsa was definitely a key threat. But we didn't get to see much of Gibraltar today.
I mean, defense, it's so much easier to be able to kind of use that Immortality field, to keep the players up, right? Like time and time again on offense, we didn't really see anything great from it, from Qadsiah there, and they allow the Ultimates to tie this one up. And you see this to another game where these scoreboards are near identical, right? Extremely close between these two teams.
Yeah, this one much more so, as like obviously you've got way more room for like big healing output from someone like Twilight, who was on the Ana and who was challenged on occasion. But the Symmetra, the TP is fine, right? The premise of like crossing the map and appearing in the backline is great, but it is telegraphed, and Twilight can just wait and hold a bio until they sort of emerge. It seems like he's really able to punish that.
SSG and other teams that have done this in the past, right? They'll TP just to sim across, put down some damage, TP back. Like, it's not just like TP and then we go, right? It's you got to play a little bit of like trickery mind games with it, right? Like, put the TP, and then instead of taking the TP, everybody just like pushes straight through, right? Forces them to look different directions. It looked like though they just kind of kept doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, you mentioned there was a distinct lack of variation there, and there's a world like maybe if there's a Genji for checkmate, you probably have to switch off the Baptiste at that point to really try and sort of set him up. Maybe there's some limitations on hero pool for Qadsiah, but look, it was fine. I think they were able to put up a very good defensive effort against this.
It's not like they got
Ultimates team. Yeah, and they made Ultimates like switch in some really uncomfortable ways with that Winston ban, but they're running out of ways to target the Ultimates preferred comp. This is one way of doing it though.
Yes, New Junk City, a very good like rush style of map. NL Qadsiah, its first ban. They've already banned Brig and Winston. I think in theory down the line, right, an Ana ban would come in at some point. Would it potentially be here? Would you save it for later in the series, right? I think that is kind of up for debate, right? In terms of like, when do you decide to pull it out?
Yeah, maybe you expect your opponents on this map not to bother trying to bring it in, but I don't know, man. I feel like the Ultimates might try and sort of, I guess you don't want to waste an Ana ban on a map that's already pretty hostile to the dive-based compositions anyway, right?
Yeah.
Since that's all you have left to target it. You want to be able to win a map where your opponent is sort of able to play the style that they want to. A good example is like the Ultimates winning that first map while having Brig banned against them bodes really well. It means they get that choice of map 5, right? It means they can set the field to make their opponents uncomfortable. Yeah, we're going to do it. We're just going to
go here.
And this also means that Labda will have to potentially play the Freya or the Ashe, God forbid.
Yeah, what will they do, right? We talked about so much about, what is the Ultimate's gonna do when the Ana is banned? Do we see Labda's kind of debut on Soj? Do we see him try and go back and play like a Pharah here potentially, right? I wonder with the Ana ban what the Ultimate goes to. Could you play like a Kiri with like a ball here? Potentially we've seen like some ball played at times on this map. We've seen players like Infected do it in the past, but
yes,
like,
I mean, when you have like the Freya play of Kai, like you don't need to really worry too much about peeling for them. They have enough mobility; they should be able to handle themselves. Do you know Kiri? Okay, so no ball shenanigans. I think we have probably seen the last of that, at least on maps like this.
Juno Kiri was a backline though. We saw an NA in stage 1, and I remember Jake being pretty tilted about it at times, if I remember correctly. That maybe didn't produce the best results. It'll be Labda actually playing the Cassidy here, so Cassidy just gets hunted down just like that. As you see, he's be able to track down Labda, take him out. But now you're going to lose Heesung out of the map.
I think you're starting to see the issue with Juno Kiri as well, is that it's not like as much the throughput as I would like. Twilight is, first of all, not get to play Ana, which is pretty bad, but also he's just holding the M1, and Heesung's still getting blown up either way. So we're seeing an immediate pivot because there's a sense that when you have to try and fight into chokes against this Malga, D.Va just doesn't you want to be able to I don't know.
The D.Va doesn't really work, and especially in this type of point, right, with how everything is so close quarter. I mean, look at the two ways they have to work through this, right? The D.Va just, once the D.Va works through this, all of her defense matrix is gone, right? And then she's just a sitting duck. Bola shot used there, it's going to be good enough to kill Labda.
Okay, and Kai might be in trouble though. Still, Stomp comes in from Ziad, but Kefs is there with that a little bit of extra damage. Checkmate, never change. Charged up on the sim, and that's the front line buckling for the ultimates. Whereas Qadsiah now sit back. They've got a symbol as well for this next engagement, potentially neutralizing Kai's effectiveness. Pretty good spot to be in with a rally in this sleeve too.
Heesung does not feel comfortable, right? I mean, this is what D.Va first respawn, Ramatra second respawn, and then Arisa coming out the third time, right? So trying to figure out a way, with this backline to use a tank that could be effective. As this will be a Kitsune rush, it'll be a rally in response from Kellex, but already first blood in favor of the Ultimates.
All right, they charge straight through the wall here. Eventually, ultimately, it doesn't end up being in the perfect space, but it doesn't really matter. The Ultimates never really could contest for this point. And we've heard at length the Ultimates talk about them wanting to sort of do something that, the rest of Europe can't do, but they also want to be able to do the thing that all of Europe can do, which is to play these non-Winston CODs. You kind of need both. But so difficult is Overwatch at the top level that to find a tank player that can do all of that is really, really difficult.
There's not many, right? No, that's why a player like someone, right? Obviously, there was a tremendous player, in the past, and obviously now back in the OWCS, was so valuable for Toronto Defy last year, Florida, etc. Where Falcons now, where you're just kind of he can do everything at a very good level, right? There are not many players in the world, regardless of whether you have an import slot or anything like that, that could do that type of stuff, right? So I think trying to make a player into that could be quite difficult.
Yeah, why do you think that SSG forked out for Kellen in the way that they did?
Yeah.
Right? Use that import slot on a flexible tank player. All right, nice little dash there by Kai. It's going to get him out of the way of this Deadeye. And Qadsiah maybe just wanders a little bit too close here. Orbit Array for the Ultimates. It's going to push out into this low ground now. Of course, this really suits their style with their comp, but it can be kited by Qadsiah pretty comfortably. They still have high ground. At some point, though, they're going to have to drop and contest this.
But you don't have a Ziad, right? So you can't exactly go down and challenge that without the Maga. So you're going to get pushed off the high ground here rather quickly, right? You see the Ultimates, they realize Ziad's not in the fight just yet. TP straight across here, right? So now everybody's going to get behind. Bola shot into the Terror Surge, and ooh, it looked like Kai may have just got a little bit knocked off course there, right? As he was flying through the sky, and a little bit to the right there with that Bola.
The trajectory looked okay, but ultimately only caught one player out. They just left him pretty exposed there to Labda, who, look, you're sitting Dark Freya while she's floating like that. Cassidy will just be grinning from ear to ear as easy kills. Good recovery off the back of that, though, for Qadsiah, even though the Ultimates started to spend through their key abilities. Now, you've got to be imagining Qadsiah have this next fight dead to rights, get even with Ultimates on capture percentage.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think it's just how do you leave this fight without Qadsiah for enough to win the fight after, right? Can you win it with just maybe the orbital ray, right? Hold on to your rally. Can you win it with just rally and maybe the sim wall and hold on to orbital ray? I think you're just trying to figure out how you can ration these ultimates to be effective later in the game. And look at that, you end up just using the sim wall and the rally. This is actually really good for Qadsiah. So a lot like what I was just talking about, where you needed to ration off some of these ultimates here going into the fight after this, right? Because that'll be the one that decides the point. You end up just investing the sim wall and the rally. Gives you an opportunity to get cage fight, Deadeye, orbital ray three huge ultimates that should be able to battle through whatever TU throws at them.
Qadsiah set up to imply they might want to fight outside, but they realize they may as well back up to the point and abuse the positional advantage they get. Okay, Twilight finds some torpedo action there. Deadeye! Oh, buddy, that is devastating. That is both the DPS down. Evidently no deflect available for Kevster or no wherewithal to make use of it. That's brutal. Qadsiah perfectly executed there. 2 fights. They squeeze max value out of 4 ultimates across them and get themselves their second.
And I gotta say, Labda stepping up a little bit here, right? Not playing the Freya. I feel like at least, really early on here when we see these types of matchups, I feel like Freya does have a little bit of an advantage over the Cassidy, but still making the Cassidy work with his Sojourn banned out. So Labda, really a lot of pressure was on him coming into this one with the Soj ban, targeting him and him only. Now still performing at a high level though. Pretty big. Ziad decides he wants to die, so he just runs straight through the choke there with no help, and he accomplishes that.
Yes, extremely voluntary behavior from Ziad. Really taking agency in that moment.
Yeah, he heard Roshan was back, and he's like, "Watch this."
Yeah. Hold my tea. All right,
Check this out.
so he's unable to back away here with Terra Surge. The ultimate's in a pretty good position. They just, again, it's a matter of rationing some of these abilities. We've discussed it at length here. And it will be a drop down for Ziad. Yeah, he knows he can't really hang. Tries for a cage fight play. But Qadsiah probably just going to allow this to happen. To get a bunch out of the ultimates for this fight. And they're cycling back into some of those key support abilities. But I don't think Qadsiah have a legitimate win condition, Matt, once Ziad uses cage fight and has to drop down low health.
And it's really difficult for him to fight in that situation, right? Because he's got to use the cage fight. You're trying to force out some ultimates from the other side, and it's an orbital, right? The cage is basically gone within seconds, and there's no way he's going to be able to live. So goes to the Diva now. Obviously, the defense matrix really good at getting through this doorway and then being able to challenge some more of the high ground with a little bit more mobility. And look at that, go right on top of Twilight.
And that is the win condition, right? Kellex pop, ult, go for Twilight. Doesn't matter what he's playing. He seems to have a target on his back anyway. Whoa! It's the rare Orisa barrier! No way! Sideshow's hairline makes its return to Overwatch? That's crazy, dude! Heesung tries to pop it, give a safe haven, but obviously it's too late.
Yeah, that's one of the first barriers I can remember seeing when we see the Orisa. A lot of people go for just the charged javelin, right? That can pierce, like we saw a little bit earlier. And now Heesung going to go over and play Zarya here. So Zarya into Diva. This is a historically really good matchup for Zarya. Being able to just kind of pretend that the defense matrix doesn't exist and just mow down.
He's a Deadeye from Labda.
Not as good as the last one.
I want to apologize to Sideshow, by the way. That's not what his hairline looks like anymore at all. He's cleaned it up. It's more like mine nowadays. He's a dive in though. Maybe no bubble left for Kevster here, and Heesung. That's tough though, trying to play through that sim wall. The Zarya comp can be a little bit exploitable, in the windows where those bubbles aren't available. Bait them out. Yeah. Force Zarya to pop that cooldown. Now, wow, Heesung, buddy. We are really playing at Mystery Heroes today.
Yeah, does he have some kind of daily challenge that we're not aware of here that he's trying to get done?
Wave steal supports and play 12 tank heroes in one game.
Playing 30 tanks. It's really tough here. Not going to be able to make it back for the ultimates as Qadsiah closes that one out 3-0. So
the bowler eats really. All right, the ultimates need to.
Ziad's Diva is sick.
Yes. I mean, fantastic game from him. I think the ultimates need to just take a breath here. Just try and relax. Ziad, a great game from him. Only 4 deaths across the entire sort of matchup. Heesung dies most on his team 9 times. When you're the Malga, sometimes teams are going to see you get remotely low and then just try and kill you. So that's not the most egregious thing. But no, we don't. It's an unabandoned game, right?
I also think he was put in a really hard spot, right? We're kind of joking about how he's switching all these tanks, but it seemed like Qadsiah always had an advantage or a step ahead in terms of where they were going and what they were trying to play, right? And kind of always playing catch up, right? So what have we seen here, right? We've seen they started out with Ramatra, then went to some Orisa. They played some Diva there, I believe, as well for the ultimates. And then they ended up playing the Orisa again at the end, right? And then the Zarya. So A lot of changes there for the Ultimates across the board, right? Obviously, the Winston is available in that one, but without Ana, there's no shot you're playing it, right? So this one looks really good in favor of Qadsiah.
Not a close game. You know, we've got two very different looking teams right now. The Ultimates are, you know, trying a bunch of different things, which is totally fine. You would think, though, that it's more appropriate to, you know, attempt that in scrims and come to the game with a very solid idea of the style that you want to play. Whereas Qadsiah, for better or worse, Matt, like they have a defined identity. Sure, Labda is not a Freya player. Like they don't have access to that right now. Ziad does not want to like match those dive comps. Fine. Outside of that, though, like they're able to find a great deal of success, even like folding the sim into a lot of their comps, which is a hero that maybe offers less skill expression than someone like Checkmate would like. But they stick to their guns, that they have a really clear understanding of what their objective is in these fights. And remember, when you switch your tank, your win condition changes a lot, right? Yeah. Like the entire aim of what your comp is, even if it's only the tank that's different, it all gets sort of thrown up in the air.
I'll say as well, I think both teams have actually done really well in terms of like the ban phase throughout this, like going at each other.
Yeah.
Where now the Ultimates, I think you're kind of you're fishing here a little bit, right? You've already gotten the Lucio out, you've gotten the Sojourn out, and the Diva out. Fascinated to see where they go next.
Yeah, we've got map number 4 just around the corner. No more target bans really available, though, to go after the Ultimate style. Let's see if that ends up being a difference maker if Qadsiah take away the series right after this. Map 4 in this series represents the Ultimate's last chance to get an edge in this series and to take us to a map 5. Interesting bans here. Looks like Checkmate Symmetra has been targeted by the Ultimates, and Qadsiah say, no Orisa for you.
So obviously no way that they can target ban for Qadsiah, like the Winston, the Ana, those are all gone. Brig also another key component. And then with the Sim gun, it takes like any type of DPS off the table, right? For Qadsiah, like could have Qadsiah have banned, let's say, like Freya, for instance, right? Because that is something that Lambda has not wanted to play throughout the entire stage 2 thus far. So the Orisa ban, quite interesting, right? I know that is one that it seems like the ultimates have fallen back to at times. Maybe the dive isn't working, so could be a little bit of a targeted comfort pick.
I mean, on this map, it's definitely less of a Winston map, right? Qadsiah. We see that like there are some parts of this map that are reasonable. In the neutral zone of Qadsiah, there's no high ground to play with. It's one of the defining sort of features of this map, whereas like Esperanza, for example, very different. In the neutral zone, there's a ton of high ground. Winston seems great. There is applications for Winston when you either are doing well and you're able to win that neutral fight, and then there's a high ground you need to take control of, but you are playing a weaker hero and then you're hoping that you win and do. It seems like win more, if anything. Like you're going to win more if you're already winning, but otherwise not great. But I do feel like Hazard is a legitimate option here.
Yeah, Hazard could be very powerful here, right? And Qadsiah, when they've gone with Hazard, they've seen some of the Orisa on the other side, right? As the Orisa can obviously dislodge the Hazard in a lot of different ways. So we see obviously a little bit before the spawn doors open. The Ziyad Winston would be a little bit of a shocker here, I think. But we've seen some wild things. Like we saw Mercy today at some point, right? We've seen some wild moments here. So Ziyad will go back to the tried and trusted Maga. Interesting though, because there's no Sim, right? Checkmate doesn't not gonna play like a Genji or something. They combo with a Tracer, where like historically Tracer doesn't really fit great into the Maga different compositions. Genji or even like a Pharah works a bit better
of this map.
That is true. That is true.
That's obviously going to be a legitimate option for you. So Ziyad here, trying to keep tabs on Heesung. Where are they going to go? Look how defensively the ultimates are actually set up. It's just Kai and Heesung actually that are playing the game right now. And they are going to want to make use of the high ground to give a free drop down for Heesung. Boy, howdy, he took a face full of damage there. Pryo goes over to Qadsiah.
Are you just trying to build up nano, right? Like,
yes.
But like you're going to give up so much space. But I think if you're Qadsiah, right? You get the bot to the choke, and then you just wait, right, and force the ultimates to dive in. Like this is where you want them to have to be aggressive, right?
All right, Checkmate's able to dodge away from the sleep. He would have heard that come out. Distinctive sound that it gives. So that's Twilight's options a little bit more strained, but Bios himself does hit 2 shots from Checkmate and force the recall. Got such a sick battle between 2 legends of the game, honestly. Sky, keep that shield up. Sun could be in trouble, tries to whip shot, but from the other end, Ziyad comes out of nowhere. Not the person that you want clotheslining you with your back turned.
Yeah, he keeps his shield up, but then gets a Hogan leg dropped in the back by Ziyad coming in on the Maga.
Gets tombstone by a 400-pound Islander.
He gets the good old Kevin Nash big boot there from Ziyad coming in on the Maga. So I mean that is
how many big boos do you give that one, Matt?
I mean, that's at least 5 big boos.
That's correct. That's a lot of big boos, brother. Okay, problems here for the ultimates are starting to compound. Sky again taken down as soon as he gets off respawn. And there's no healing here for the ultimates, which means that this is a checkpoint they must freely give up. None of their map picks have worked out and Checkmate's been unleashed. You thought he was at his best on Sim? Come on.
I mean, dude, and this series, like, does it raise more questions than answers in terms of like what is going on with Gen G? Like, Qadsiah TM goes all the way to the distance yesterday, right? Sound barrier here for Kellex as Qadsiah will keep the cart going. And honestly, it might just be that it comes down to like this is actually just like a pretty good compositional roster matchup here for Qadsiah. But man, they're cruising now.
Actually, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I think the reality is that it's great to have Winston play, Matt. It's nice to have, but against these teams in EMEA, it's not the be all and end all. I think that the ultimates want to get to a point where their Winston comp is so good that it does what it should do when we see, like, you know, teams from Korea play it, for example, against these comps and just completely embarrass them. But
Yeah,
bans are in the
I
game now,
assume-
and there's a map pool that doesn't always like allow for like Esperanza's not in the pool. That's a huge problem for the Ultimates when they come to like a push map.
Or I assume if you're the Ultimates, right? Like he has to be working on some type of, you know, whether it be obviously we don't play Ramatra, but maybe some type of Maga setup, right? You know, to give some more options. Is you know, we see actually is going to be the rally. Oh, that is poor lobbed.
All right, cage fight here. Heesung, despite all of his rage, will be caught in that small area. Not really how you want to make use of Primal. Hello, Sky. Goodbye, Sky. Oh, well, that's a pulse bomb as well for Twilight. This is, what? Oh, that was for Heesung. Okay.
Yeah. He just Twilight is just caught in the firing line there.
Yeah, this is definitely starting to blow out of control now. We've still got 6 minutes to play, folks. We're about to hit triple digits for our Qadsiah. Landon, by the way, might be one of the most consistent sort of flex supports that you could ask for. This Kiri play, every time Twilight has set a bio, this whole series, he's been right there with a Suzu.
And Landon is just a rock solid player all around as he gets taken out at range there by Twilight. But Landon is really, really good. I mean, I feel like he's kind of been underrated in some aspects for like a few years now at some point, where just the consistency from game to game is pretty crazy with Landon. So Qadsiah, like we talked a little bit about earlier, their roster is sick. It may not have like kind of like the, you know, the flashy one player that you look at and you're super hyped about, but just overall this roster is pretty nuts. And okay, so now we're actually going to see Heesung play the Maga. So I was talking about it like there, you know, if you're gonna kind of come to EMEA, you got to be able to play this at some aspects, right? You imagine he's working on it, right? So may as well try it in official.
Heesung though has to charge backwards. Never a good sign. Nano, this is just to keep him alive. Not good. Sound barrier comes down. Heesung able to get healed up amidst this though. But again, always eyes on the sky. Switch over to the Kiri. Dealt with by Landon. Kunai base lobotomy. The Ziad is demech from that high ground. The Ultimate team might feel favored in this situation until they lose Twilight. Then the concern again will start to creep in. Kevs to be checkmate. Deformer, the Swede, really struggling to deal with the checkmate as they try to ban the sim and they've unleashed an absolute monster on themselves.
Yeah, he's going to use the cardiac overdrive really early in that previous fight, so interested to see how he ends up, you know, playing some of this Maga as Stomp will come in. Oh, actually, a nice TP gets Landon out there. Kitsune Rush dropped. He will end up losing Landon, but it'll be Lambda who takes out Heesung with a railgun shot. Still has the overclock as well. Gonna pop it now.
I think, like, at some point, the conversation has to go to whether Freya or Sojourn is objectively better, because in this Malga battle, like, Laptor is really able to farm Heesung quite a lot. Has like a range advantage, it feels, but he still brings a lot to the table on that hero.
And for whatever reason, like, you know, there's still over 3 minutes on the clock. This has felt like a really like long drawn out game, I think, because a lot of these fights have just kind of chained into each other. A lot of like staggering. Qadsiah has just kind of been in control the entire time. It's been pretty rough for the Ultimates to get anything going as he's just trying to hold on here. Nice stomp there. Actually gets rid of Ziad, and Ziad's actually mech. Just going to take Heesung out towards the end. But this will allow the Ultimates to get that bot closer back towards mid-map. Maybe give themselves an opportunity.
Or maybe give themselves any meterage at all. Would be good at this part of the game. And they're on the board, folks. Or are they? Okay. Now we're going to make some modest progress here. We've got a cage fight ready. Heesung might be looking for like an early cage fight. With maybe a Laptor inside, able to sort of assist to some degree.
I think Kellex is also just playing for like a beat, right? Like maybe the cage fight comes in and he's able to get in. Sound barrier here, so that's going to be the beat. As soon as the cage goes down, the beat comes in from Kellex. I know, even though they get some kills off of that cage fight, it is the Qadsiah team winning out in the end, it looks like.
Kepta can probably deal with Sky here. Or rather, with Landon.
You still have checkmate here, and then you still have Ziad and Labda now coming down the staircase, right? So you're going to be fine here, Qadsiah, yeah.
Yeah, so not enough to be going on if you're the Ultimates. This is going to Qadsiah able to move the ball back to towards the middle part of the map here and say, okay, well, that was the cage fight engagement from the Ultimates. No definitive result emerged from it. We're down to 2 minutes left in the game. Checkmate Vikevs has been sick. Honestly, the mechanics on display from these two. You can't ask for much more from a high-flying DPS battle than that one. Sky again being found and punished. Twilight back on the Juno now, so it makes much more sense with this Malga look. Won't be able to get away. He is done.
This series has been really close from start to finish in terms of just like how the maps have been, like, and fights have been, but this one has not been indicative of that. This has been just Qadsiah just running away with it. Like how you mentioned, I thought it was a good point. Like, none of the push maps are particularly great selections for the Ultimates, right? At this point, in terms of what they want to try and do. Where Bola shot here from Kai, so this should be allowing the Ultimates to get a fight win, but it was going to put them in a weird situation here, right? Having to play some type of rush variation.
Yeah, obviously, you do need to build into your pool the potential of coming onto maps like this or in a stage like this and being able to still win. Look, and honestly, things broke favorably for Ilios remaining in the control pool for the Ultimate, so it's not like the world is sort of working against them. There are like maps that are like Hollywood and Gibraltar in the pool now, so it's kind of evens itself out over the course of the series. But yeah, this is not a great environment for them. And by his own admission, Chris is very 5-man roster pilled, so they're going to have to turn Heesung over the course of this stage into the player that can hang here.
But I think, though, like, that is the right approach, right? And I think how Chris mentioned yesterday, too, like, you kind of have to start playing officials, right? And do it live, as opposed to, kind of like playing it in scrims. Like, there's just a completely different energy and, pace and sense of urgency in these live matches. So it's like, you're going to take your licks at some point, right? And if anything, you learn from a series like this.
I think that also, like, you only really have to win a couple of games to at least put yourselves in playoffs, even with like a low seed, right? Which is, you don't always want that, like having to start sort of towards the lower side of the bracket already. But we saw the Ultimates almost make that run, losing out to Qadsiah in the end there. But looks like this rivalry still, might still sit with Qadsiah. But as we've been discussing this, we've had a couple of really nice fights strung together by the Ultimates. So they are in a position now to find this checkpoint.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they aren't exactly out of it just yet, right? They're going to get checkpoint. The bad thing here for Ultimates, right, is you ended up having to use both support ults to be able to do it. But, maybe Kai lands like a huge Bola shot, right? It'll be a sound barrier that actually opens things up. It'll be Landon following things up with the Kitsune rush here as well. Kai's Bola shot does take out Checkmate, but just, flooding over the top with both support ults. It's just too overwhelming for the Ultimates to deal with.
And there you have it, folks. What feels like a pretty definitive result. Qadsiah have renewed their claim to the top of the leaderboard here in Europe with a huge win over the Ultimates. A map pool where plenty of Winston play is possible, but Qadsiah targeted their ideal comp with a lot of nice bans. And to take nothing away from the Ultimates, I thought the Ultimates ban strategy was also pretty sophisticated. But they definitely, made themselves out to be pretty one-dimensional over the course of that series, Ash.
Yeah, they did. Well, you guys talked about how that map pool just doesn't really favor what the Ultimates are trying to gun for when it comes down to that tank matchup. But you also have to consider, I think we had that conversation with Landon yesterday with Qadsiah, how easy it's been to integrate Kellex into the system, and a different story for the Ultimates because of that language barrier. It's going to take a little bit more time for that team to gel, but it was such a great showing here for Qadsiah going into their second matchup of Stage 2. I think overall there was also just like a lot of really great moments that we saw coming out from Qadsiah. Checkmate was just on fire today here, Matt.
Yeah, I think just Qadsiah showed the type of team that they were at. At Champions Clash, right? They took a map off of Falcons, and then we were kind of like, oh, wait, hey, Qadsiah. And then they end up losing to Virtus Pro, but now back in EMEA, I think they're showing that they want to grow from that experience at Champions Clash, right? That them taking the map off of Falcons and then, losing in a close game to Virtus Pro, that's not the ceiling for this team, right? Extremely well coached, great roster top to bottom. And I think, even for the Ultimates, right? You have to look at it as like, this is a week that you went 1-1, right? There were not a lot of 1-1 weeks, in the previous stage, right? You had a lot of difficulty where, look, you lost, and I think for the Ultimates, you can look at it and say you lost to a team that's top three in the region, right? Like Qadsiah, the Ultimates, and like VP at the moment. Like, so I don't think you can be too upset if you're the Ultimates coming out of this week.
And you also have, like, you're not playing until next Sunday, and it's against Quick Esports. So I think we're quickly realizing there are no like softballs here, but that's a whole week that the Ultimates have to really start to get Heesung a bit more acclimated. I think if you're an uncoachable fan, you should definitely listen in to hear some insights from Christopher on that show, because I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about like how this week went for this roster. Because I'd say, yeah, bittersweet. I think this is not the way he would have wanted to end it, but hey, Qadsiah, man, they pretty unchanged. They look rock solid. I think they're a hot favorite this season.
Yeah, a team that we wanted to see have that strong start after, falling out in that EMEA battle, I guess, in Champions Clash that Matt had been talking about there. But let's have a conversation about the player of the match that we had here within Checkmate as well. So much of that conversation, I think, during that matchup came down